Empress Expressions. My name's Amber and I'm the Empress here. And tonight I want to talk about something that I have been running across like on YouTube and just like on different forums and stuff like that. And it is depersonalization disorder. And I find it very interesting. I, for the longest time, didn't know that that particular thing had an actual term for it, right? So I kind of wanted to do a little bit of story time and just share, different experiences and stuff that I've had as to why I'm even where I'm at today and why I just, the different things that I've experienced and the things that I've learned from my experiences. And so I just wanted to talk a little bit about depersonalization disorder. I don't even really want to call it a disorder because I feel like there's nothing wrong with it. It's not a disorder. It's a part of, I feel like, enlightenment. It's a part of awakening. That was what my experience was. So the first time I experienced a sense of depersonalization, first off, I would like to say that I feel like I had been experiencing it from a very, very young age. First and foremost, I don't really have specific examples before this one particular example that I want to give you, or an experience that I had. But I just remember as a little girl, and even to this day my mom still tells me this, but as a little girl I always talked about parallel or alternate realities and universes, and I was very, my mom probably thought I was a pretty weird kid, but I was always talking about a parallel reality and parallel universes, and that it's like I had this knowing at a very, very young age that there was way more than what is going on here on planet Earth and what we experience with our five senses. So I'll just start off by saying that, and I would play with time too. I would play with time and say certain things would happen at this certain time, if this thing happened. I was always playing with reality. It was really fun to me. My mom probably thought there was something wrong with me. Anyways, but this one particular experience that I had, I think I was in junior high, and my mom was a single mom for the first 10 years of my life. And so when I turned 10, she met a guy and they got married. He had 2 kids and we had this big family all of a sudden, right? So it went from just being me and my mom, and to now there's me, my mom, her husband. He had 2 kids, so there's 3 kids now, and then they had my little brother, so now there's 4 kids, right? So at this point in time, we're all living together. I think I'm in 6th or 7th grade at this point. And me and my mom used to live in the inner city of Houston. So I was an inner city kid. And when she married, we were already out of the inner city and had moved into the suburbs. And so we started going to this church. It was a big, one of those mega churches. It was called Second Baptist. And it was a pretty cool little church. I had grown up in the Southern Baptist church kind of feel, the black Southern Baptist, you're wearing pantyhose and you're at church all damn day. So disrespectful. That's another video. Anyways, but I had grew up in that kind of church. And so we're at church anyways. I'm in junior high, we're at church. And where I was sitting, the way we did it was our church was still it was still being built. This big church we were attending and members of, they were still building other outside buildings. separate from like the sanctuary. And so our Sunday school classes were held at a local movie theater. Like the movie theater is not open in the mornings. And so they had it set up to where we would go to this movie theater. You'd be dropped off by your parents, or it was junior high and high school there. So some of those kids drove themselves there. You were dropped off by your parents. You did your Sunday school there in whatever theater room you were supposed to go to. And then from there, we would get on charter buses and they would charter us to the big church. So I get to the big church and I'm sitting at the very back. So like the pastor would be in the center, and his I guess the pulpit or whatever was like circular. And so he would just walk around it and preach and talk, and like the congregation was completely circled around him. And so I'm at the very back. So I'm like literally seeing all the backs of the heads, seeing the backs of everyone's heads that are in front of me. But then like across the way, I could see people, that were facing me. You have people on both sides. Anyways, I'm a very detail-oriented person, clearly. So I'm just trying to really paint this picture for you. So I'm sitting, get away from that. Sorry, my dog. So I'm sitting at the very back up top, and I'm sitting there, and services started. We got through the singing, and like that was always my favorite part, was the music. Like that's when I really felt spirit. That's when I really felt God, right? Is when the music was playing. When the pastor started talking, I completely would just zone out. So music was done, sitting there, probably thinking about what I'm gonna eat, or I'm freaking a junior high kid. I may have been like talking to my friends and stuff like that. And out of nowhere, like I remember sitting there, and all of a sudden I was just sitting there, and like everything around me almost like went silent. It was really interesting, just for a split second. And this is my experience of the depersonalization. Like I like popped out of my body. I wasn't asleep. I was sitting there at church with probably 1,000 or more people. And I literally popped out of my body. And I remember just floating around the sanctuary. In the way that I floated, I just continuously saw the backs of everyone's heads. Even as I moved to the other side of the sanctuary, I was just floating, and I would see just the backs of everyone's heads. And I remember thinking to myself, holy shit, what is going on? I remember feeling so freaked out, but I felt so at peace. It was the weirdest feeling to this day, honestly, I'd have to say. And I've had several of these experiences. But I just remember floating around and seeing the backs of everyone's heads and just thinking to myself, oh wow, like in that peaceful state, I was like, wow, like if I died, this is what it would kind of be like. I remember having that thought outside of my body. And I knew my body was back over there and I was over here. And then this may be a little dark for some people, but this was a part of my process. This was a part of my experience. In that moment, I thought to myself, oh wow, like if I got hit by a bus, I would die. And that was so profound. Like in that moment, that's when I realized like that was my energy body. And at the time I didn't know it was my energy body. As far as I was concerned, it was truly me, and the body that I had came out of was like just something I didn't associate with that body. And so, yeah, I just remember thinking, I was like, wow, like if I got hit by a bus right now, and there was no reason for me to get hit by a bus because I'm in church and floating around the church at that, I just remember thinking, oh wow, I would die. And that was the freakiest, most peaceful experience ever. So that was one experience. And okay, so once I got done floating around, I had the thought of the bus situation. I came back to myself. I came back to the body, my body. And I remember thinking, wow, none of this is real. That was the first thing that came to mind when my energy body went back into my physical body. Wow, none of this is real. And I would have to say, for a junior high kid, that was quite a bit for me to kind of wrap my head around. I didn't really give it too much thought or anything afterwards. I just never have forgotten it. And I didn't say anything to anybody. I may have said something to my sister at the time, I don't remember. But it was just like this really cool and frightening experience that I had, and I didn't, it kind of felt sacred at that time. And sacred, see, wasn't like a word that I was using at that time, but it felt like a secret. It felt like something that was super close and personal to me. And it was like I had been invited, or I had been allowed to see something that most people don't get to see, or most people won't allow themselves to experience or to see. So yeah, that was my first experience. And then from there, I would just have moments where I wouldn't necessarily pop out of my body, but I would be like beside myself. It never really felt so much like that experience at church where I literally felt myself, like I felt the separation of physical and energy. It was just a really different experience. But then moving forward, and just over the next, for the duration of my existence up till now, I would just have these experiences where I would literally be beside myself. And I just never knew that there was a term for depersonalization. I just thought, hey, well, my mom always said I was, kind of a weird, different kind of kid. So maybe that's just what this is, But yeah, it was always this sense of like, I was over here and I'm looking out and just like, wow, like, and one of the reoccurring thoughts in those moments of depersonalization would be, wow, like none of this is real. Like, who's making the rules up? You know what I'm saying? I remember like asking questions when I'd be beside myself, like, what's right, what's wrong? And it always would come back, for me, truth would always ring. Like, it wasn't like a right or wrong thing. It was like there was just truth. And yeah, so I say all that to say, because this is a very spiritual channel. I like to kind of, dive into esoteric type of concepts, and more of those types of videos will definitely be coming. But I say that to say, because I realized over time, and more so now than ever, that was a part of my spiritual awakening, or which I don't ever feel like you're fully ever like awoke, I guess. Like, I feel like it's a constant journey and process. Like, you're constantly learning, you're constantly evolving, you're constantly cultivating, whether you want to or not, you're cultivating in something. But I feel like those experiences were a part of my spiritual journey. And I think back on those and how what I know now, it all makes sense as to what was going on. It was me really understanding, the mind construct of what reality is, what this world is, the agreements that we've made as to what certain things are, I definitely want to do a video on that as well, about the agreements that we've made. But yeah, I just wanted to share that. That literally came to me earlier today, and I was like, I need to do a video on depersonalization, because if you are experiencing that, I know it can be frightening. I know it can be very, it can just really throw you off, you know. I just want to let you know that you are not alone, and other people are experiencing that too. And I truly believe that it's a part of enlightenment. It's to truly help you remember who you are and where you came from and what you're made of, and how everything is connected. You know, the universal law 1 is divine oneness, the interconnectedness. Like, we're all connected. And that particular experience of me popping out of my body, there was really, I never really felt a separation other than my body was not my body at that time. Like, that was the separation that I felt. That was the only separation. But the energy, I felt everybody in that church. And this church was full of people. Yeah, it was interesting. And I remember also feeling in that moment of kind of floating around and looking at the backs of everyone's heads. And looking is like not even really the right word to use, but that's what I've got right now. But yeah, I'm looking at the backs of everyone's heads, and I remember everyone felt so, there were interesting feelings. There was a heavy feeling of concern. Like, people were concerned, and people were curious. Concerned and curious are words, right, that came up. And then there was also like a lot of void as well. There was like a sense of void. Like, there were some of the people that I felt there was just a void in them. I don't know how else to really put that. Like, it was like a nothingness. Nothing bad, nothing good. It was just like a void. It was like an empty bottle. And if I had to use an analogy, that you could put anything in, you know, like they were sponges almost, waiting to absorb something. So yeah, I say all that to say that if you have experienced this, don't freak out. Don't let anybody tell you that there's something wrong with you. I would really recommend just maybe practicing some breath work. I would practice, you know, meditation. If you're not into meditation, just start with a really, really short period of time. Start with 5 minutes, and I would recommend you do 5 minutes in the morning and then 5 minutes right before you go to bed. Don't go to sleep scrolling on your phone. I would start practicing falling to sleep with yourself, you know. So 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes at night before you go to bed, and then do that for a week. Do that for 14 days, and then bump it up to 10 minutes, you know, and do that for another 2 weeks, and then bump it up to 15 minutes. And yeah, some people, you know, I know some people that meditate for an hour in the morning. I know some people that meditate for 15-20 minutes in the mornings and then at night before they go to bed, and they're fine. So you kind of figure out what works for you. But I'm sharing this story because I don't want other people out there to feel like there's something wrong with them. Like, we are spiritual beings who are having a human experience. So we will have experiences in this lifetime that we can't quite understand at times because of our human experience and the agreement of forgetting who we are to come here and remember. So I just wanted to share this story with you all. I thank you so much for being here with me. I send you peace, I send you light, and until next time, bye.